welcome back. So last time we talked about those secret, like hidden ways, those tiny little things that we are doing throughout the day that's having a massive impact on our ability to lose or gain weight. So that's what we talked about last week, and we're going to talk more about that later on. But this week, I wanted to kind of start at the basics and what is the formula for weight loss? Like based on science, based on all the literature that I have read, based on my experience as a dietitian for 20 years, 20 plus years now, and my personal experience, what is the formula? And we see keto diet, we see vegan diet, we see all, and those two to me are like so opposites, and people are successful on those. Is there a formula that both of those people are doing that's helping with weight loss? And when you watch the people who are successful, there is. The keto person and the vegan person that are the ones that are losing weight are doing the same things. Before I go into the formula though, I want to talk about why it works. So with a diet, it is oversimplified to say calories in versus calories out or calorie deficit. There is more to it. There are people who burn more calories. There are some calories we eat, but we don't absorb them. We talk about the calories we burn. We're not just talking about with exercise. We're also talking about the calories burned because we have a nice, healthy, speedy metabolism. And some people have higher metabolisms than others, but good news is there are some things we can do to help increase our own metabolism. And I think that's been very helpful for me and my clients, especially the ones that are 40 or over, where our metabolism started feeling like it was slowing down, and we did some things to kickstart it again. So yes, for the formula to work, you need a calorie deficit, but the calorie deficit can come from the calories you eat and burn exercising, but also the calories you absorb and the calories you metabolize, okay? Another thing that you need to have a successful weight loss story is you need to enjoy it, particularly if you want to sustain it and not give up. You want to enjoy the food. You don't want it to feel like you're being deprived. So there's a formula that can help with that as well. Humans, beginning of time, right? We did not have cheeseburgers and fries and pizza, right? At the beginning, when we first came around, right? We didn't have those things. Those things are a small amount of food that has a large amount of calories, right? And the quantity is much smaller, but we have a lot of calories in them. So our brain didn't have to say, oh, that's too many calories, I'm full now. All our brain needed to see is, oh, my stomach capacity is filled up. Now I'm full, right? I have these foods that are this big, but filling us up with calories. Does that make sense, right? Our brains didn't have to say. So let me give it to you this way. So let's say you eat like 400 calories of oil and you've like filled up your stomach this much, right? But you ate 400 calories of broccoli, which I would not recommend, but your stomach's going to be full and you're going to be done. And your brain's going to be like, oh, I ate, I'm good. But it won't know you ate when your stomach's filled up this much because it doesn't recognize like, oh, I've eaten 400 calories already. So does that make sense? Because we didn't need to know that back then. And I'm going to say something here. I've seen it a few times, some influencers say it's not healthy to volume eat to trick your body. You're not tricking your body. You're doing what your body wants. Your body was made to want to fill up the stomach. So when we eat to fill up our stomach, we're like, oh, that feels good, you know? So that is part of the key to the formula is making sure you feel nice and full. Or we're going to just be wanting to eat. Like when I finish my lunches now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so full. I don't want anything else. I don't feel miserable. I don't feel like, oh my God, I need to lay on the couch for 3 hours like you do after Thanksgiving. But I feel, wow, I feel nice and full. Just like you went to a restaurant and you had something, you know, I feel nice and full. You want to have joy. You want to enjoy your food. You want to get to the point where you're craving the food that you eat. When I get hungry now, I don't think, oh, what, can I go to Taco Bell? Okay, maybe sometimes I do. But my first instinct is the foods that I eat now. You know, that's the foods that I think about. So, and you will get there. And I'll kind of show you how. So again, the formula. In a calorie deficit from calories eaten, calories absorbed, calories metabolized, and calories we burn exercising. All of those We want to feel full and satisfied while we're on our diet. And we want to be able to eat this way forever, where it's not really a diet. And we want to have joy. We don't want to feel deprived. We don't feel like we're like white knuckling it to get through it. No, this is just what we eat. This is what we like, So, okay. All right. So you ready? So the formula for all that to work is, are you ready? You want every meal that you eat, if you can, you get in situations where you can't. I've been in those. But every meal that you eat, you want to try to focus on, is it high in fiber? Your meal, you want it to be high in fiber, high in protein, high in volume, like fill you up, low in calories. That's the formula. And if you watch people who have lost weight on whatever diet it is, you watch that. That's what they're doing. High in fiber. Here's the thing. Fiber is one of the number one predictors of weight loss. So what that means is, if you're looking at two people and you are trying to predict if they're going to lose weight and you're looking at their diets, the person with a low fiber diet, you can predict is not going to lose weight. The person with a high fiber diet, you're like, oh, they're going to lose weight. It's the number one predictor. But guess what? 96% of Americans are not getting enough fiber. So you can probably bet that you're not getting enough unless you're in that journey now. And like we're going to get enough fiber. We are going to glow up at 40. 45, 46, I'm 45. We're going to glow up because we're going to add that fiber. I feel like a lot of people have heard this, that fiber does make you feel full. Absolutely. That is one of the things that makes fiber so amazing. It makes us feel full. Not only does it make us feel full faster while we're eating, it stays in our stomach longer. Eating fiber is really an appetite suppressant. So say you eat a high fiber breakfast, you'll get hungry again at dinner, but you'll get full faster at dinner because you ate the high fiber breakfast. Right? So that's pretty huge. Fiber so crowds out the other stuff. Because we're getting full, it naturally crowds out those foods that are high in calories and low in nutrients. It also reduces our cravings for those high sugar, high fat foods. It reduces the cravings. That's one that I think people don't realize. So when we're eating fiber, we don't absorb everything in that food. We don't absorb all the calories. So let's say you're eating a pack of high fiber nuts and you look on the back and it says it's 100 calories. You're actually not going to absorb all 100 calories. So you can even think about that as like not even really 100 calories. But here's the other cool thing. Fiber traps some of the fat, the carbohydrates, and the calories in the foods you're eating alongside those fiber foods and prevents you from absorbing some of those. You're eating a high fiber food and then you're also eating some kind of dessert. You're not at the same time, like you kind of ate them together, like maybe one and then the other, who knows. You're not going to absorb all the fat and carbohydrates and calories from that dessert because you ate it with the fiber. Fiber does increase our GLP-1 naturally. So I had a client who came to me because there was a GLP-1 shortage. This was like a while back. And they panicked like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? We have no GLP-1. I was like, we're just going to increase your fiber and you're going to have GLP-1. Because GLP-1 is made naturally in the body. The standard American diet does not promote us making as much GLP-1. But when we add that fiber, we are upping our GLP-1. And I'm telling you, my weight started flying off. You know what? It was hard for so long to lose weight. I was so frustrated. I kept feeling like I was doing, we talked about this in the last video. I was doing all these things and couldn't lose weight. And then it was so hard and then it was so easy. I mean, to the point where I was at the end kind of like, ooh, I got to slow up. I was already really small and wearing a size 2 and they were getting too big. And I wasn't even trying to lose weight anymore. So the fiber increases your GLP-1 naturally. And there's some other things I want to talk about that can help with GLP-1. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I did mention, I think I've mentioned some of my other videos that I lost a substantial amount of weight. I don't know the exact number because I wasn't weighing myself, but it was a substantial amount of weight. And I didn't use the GLP-1s. It is absolutely okay to use the GLP-1s. In fact, I want to do a series after this series where I talk about if you're going to use GLP-1s, how to make them the most effective and how to take the GLP-1s and not get what people are calling the GLP-1 butt or the GLP-1 face or the aging that can happen in your face with taking GLP-1s, which 100% I have clients on the GLP-1 and they're aging backwards. Okay, so we can massively prevent a lot of those things that happen when you're taking GLP-1. So we're going to do that series next after this series. And this isn't about weight loss, but really and truly, we want our health to be great, right? We want more than just the weight loss. So for every 8-gram increase in fiber, it reduces your risk of type 2 diabetes by 15%, reduces your risk of heart disease by 20%, and your risk of colon cancer by 80%. I did like a little kind of rough estimate of what would it be like if you were like barely eating fiber and then you got your fiber up to what you need it to be and eat a really high fiber diet. What could that be in terms of calories? And if you're thinking about fiber does increase our metabolism, it's a lot more. I forgot to mention that one earlier. It increases our metabolism. Our bodies have to work harder to deal with fiber. Okay. So, with that being said, fiber increases our metabolism. It makes us feel full. It's an appetite suppressant throughout the day. It grabs onto some of the calories, fat, and carbohydrates in the foods we're eating and prevents us from absorbing some of them. It increases your GLP-1. If it does all those things, it can equate to maybe around a 700 calorie deficit a day. A 700 calorie deficit a day, if you do that every single day, that's a 1.5 pound weight loss in a week. That's from just adding fiber. That's not from taking something away. That's from adding something. Not to mention that fiber reduces our cravings for high fat, high calorie foods. Fiber pushes out the other foods in our diet and leaves no room for it. That's why the formula tells us we need some fiber in our diet. So we talked about high volume, right? Our stomachs want to be filled up to recognize, oh, I'm full, right? So you want high volume. But to get high volume without too many calories, you need high volume, low calories, right? So what we do with our plate is we bulk up the plate with things that have very little calories, add lots of those, and then add the other stuff on. So we've added a lot of volume and still eating that other stuff too. Have high protein, which is part of the formula. And a lot of us know about this. Of course, we build muscle mass. That speeds up our metabolism. We also naturally speed up our metabolism when we eat protein versus like simple sugars and fats, because our body has to work harder to digest and absorb protein. In fact, our body uses about 25% more energy to digest protein versus digesting like fat and simple sugars. And protein helps us feel full, just like fiber. It helps us feel full and satisfied. Imagine how full and satisfied you're gonna feel when you eat lots of protein. That fills you up. When you eat lots of fiber, that fills you up. When you're eating this giant meal, that fills you up. So you're gonna feel really full and satisfied when you follow that. This is where I want to mention non-starchy veggies. Basically, there are 4 components to that weight loss formula, right? If you add non-starchy veggies to your plate, you've covered 3 out of the 4. So if you bulk up your plate, and when I say bulk up your plate, I tell people either make half your plate non-starchy veggies. There's a couple other things you can put on there instead. Non-starchy veggies, we'll go into that in a minute. But think of half your plate non-starchy veggies, or like say if you're doing a bowl or a salad, you can make the bulk of your plate non-starchy veggies and put like the other stuff on top. But if you make half of the bulk of your plate non-starchy veggies have fiber, check. Non-starchy veggies are low in calories. So you're checking that one off. And since they're low in calories, you can bulk up your plate with veggies and have a high volume meal for low calories. High volume, check. So non-starchy veggies covers high in fiber, high volume, low calories. So then all you have left is you need some protein. All right, so that's why veggies are so important. And if you don't like veggies, we can find ways to help you like them, or we can find ways to hide them into your food. But in a way, you really need to try to start figuring out how to put some veggies on your plate. Okay, see people who lose a lot of weight on the keto diet or something like that, they're filling up half their plate with veggies, non-starchy veggies. See people on the vegan diet and they're filling up half their plate with non-starchy veggies. All right, so I think that's a good stopping point. Every episode builds on each other. So the next episode, I'd like to talk about the plate method. The plate method is so simple, I think. Is this too simple for me to be talking about? But one ways that dietitians talk about weight loss because it works and because it's simple. Like when things are too complicated, we don't do them. It's too much to think about. Our brains are full. I mean, I know my brain's full, like with being a mom, a preschool teacher, a dietitian, a soccer mom, a dance mom. There is so much in my brain sometimes that the last thing I want to do is make my eating complicated. That's why the plate method is so good. And it makes sure you cover that weight loss formula. So we'll go over the plate method in our next episode of, let me see if I can say what my big long name for this series. It's the 60-day after 40 glow up series. With this series, you get to start your glow up story. I have my glow up story already. We're starting your glow up story. I'm so excited.